Well, we're here at Kensington Palace, where they will be opening their doors to a new exhibition called Diana, Her Fashion Story, which of course celebrates her life through her evolving fashion style, because this year marks 20 years since Princess Diana was killed in that Paris tunnel. Now, there are 25 of her most iconic dresses and outfits on display here, and we're lucky enough to be talking to one of the curators, Hilary Lynn. Thank you very much for having us today.
Pleasure.
So talk to us a little bit about the exhibition and the idea behind the exhibition.
Well, as you said, 2017 marks 20 years since the death of Princess Diana. And people still come to Kensington Palace because it was her former home. So we wanted to celebrate her life and style with 25 of her most iconic gowns. And fashion is such a good medium to talk about the princess, because although she didn't like to be known as a clothes horse, she intuitively understood the language of clothes and really used it to help her do the job at hand as a princess, humanitarian and patron of the arts.
I was just going to say that she knew what worked for her, and she used that to attract attention, especially when she was out going to charities. She wanted to draw people into the causes that she really believed in, and I think she used fashion to do that. Well,
absolutely. She was a passionate patroness, an ambassador for British fashion and the British fashion industry across the world. She was also representing Britain, so her clothing did represent the best of British fashion, but also diplomatic messages when she went on international travels. However, she also, in addition to looking regal and like a princess, she also used fashion to dress down. So when she was visiting children's hospitals, for example, she would wear bright, cheerful colours so that the children would find her approachable. She very rarely wore gloves because she liked to hold hands. And she stopped wearing hats after a while because she said you can't cuddle a child in a hat. So there are many different ways that she used fashion to do her job, but she was very good at knowing how to do that.
Let's talk about her fashion style and compare it to other people and the other members of the royal family. I mean, she dressed completely differently to other members of the royal family. She was more daring.
I think that's true. I think that she had a sense of experimentation and fun with her fashion. What you see in her style is that often she had a bit of a playful sense, so she often wore tuxedo styles. There's a very famous flamenco dress where she wore a red evening glove and a black evening glove, which is quite bold.
Mismatched.
Absolutely. And she liked to wear costume jewellery, which at the time was quite innovative, because she was teaming high street with couture. A lot of the designers recall a sense of fun when she was trying on clothes, and a sort of playful glint in her eye as she was trying on clothes, and sort of saying, they're going to love this.
And what's interesting, I think, about this exhibition is that you can see how her style evolved. You have one of the blouses that she wore for her engagement portrait that was taken by Lord Snowdon, where she was very sort of innocent and young. It really reflected her age. I mean, she was very young when she was engaged. Then, you know, fast forward to these showstoppers, right?
Well, I mean, in the exhibition, we chart 16 years of her time in the public eye. It would be surprising her style didn't evolve from her teenage to her 30s. But what we see is her very quickly gaining a sense of confidence in her sense of style. And so in the early 80s, you see she's wearing a lot of that sort of new romantic style that was very fashionable, lots of frills, lots of ruffles, and she really liked that. But I think she learned quite quickly that that didn't necessarily play very well for press photographs, and she learned to really simplify her look, to make the embellishments surface embellishments, and sort of give herself a streamlined silhouette. In a way, she rose above those seasonal changes in fashion to have a more timeless elegance, and stuck with what she knew suited her, even if fashions shifted around her. And I think it's that timeless elegance that has given her that fashion icon status that we remember.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of people were looking at her as this like fashion icon, international fashion icon. And what was interesting to see is as you were saying, the way her fashion evolved, and how towards the end of her life she was wearing more sort of, I think she was comfortable in who she was. She knew who she was, and I think she was comfortable in the way, you know, some of her dresses were quite form-fitting.
Well, they were. I mean, that also reflects the 90s fashion for the bodycon style. But she wore a series of what Catherine Walker, who was one of her most loyal and enduring designers, called dignified showstoppers. So she knew how to wear fantastically dignified, but really knockout numbers.
So let's go, if you don't mind, just talking to us about a few of the dresses here. I know that the green one, the velvet one, has a little secret. Maybe has a little secret.
Not this one.
Oh, it's not this one?
Another green velvet.
Okay, so not this one.
No.
So okay, fine. We'll talk about the other green one. But if you could just tell us about the dresses that are in this room.
Yeah, of course. So we're actually standing in what is the final room of the exhibition. And this room really addresses that auction that was held at Christie's in New York in 1997. And inspired by an idea of Prince William's, the princess decided to sell 79 of her most famous gowns for charity, raising over £3.4 million for AIDS and cancer charities. But the press widely reported this as a symbolic act, that she was closing a chapter on her royal life and style, and perhaps embarking upon a new chapter. Of course, the poignant thing is that we wouldn't know what that next chapter was to be. But in this room, we really celebrate that the Diana who was very confident in her own sense of style, and surrounding us on the walls are images from a Mario Testino photo shoot for Vanity Fair that was taken in order to publicise the auction. And what we see in these images is a very informal, relaxed Diana. Mario Testino wanted to photograph her as if she'd just come in from a party. So there are no accessories. She looks as though she's just run her fingers through her hair. And I think this is the enduring image of Diana that we have.
And she looks comfortable, she looks happy. What else can you tell us about the dresses in here before we move to another room?
Well, in addition to a number of the dresses that were sold at auction, we also have a dress by Gianni Versace that she wore in 1991. And as Princess of Wales, she had been a proud ambassadress for British fashion and worn almost exclusively British designers. In the 90s, she did start to experiment more with international designers, and Versace was a real favourite. This dress is quite iconic. From a photo shoot with Patrick de Marchelier. So it's the one at the other side of the case.
Okay.
But it's got a pattern of beading to it, which is very much like...
Can we walk? Can we walk to it?
It has a pattern of beading on it, which is very...
This one?
Yes, very sort of Liz Tayloring Cleopatra. So quite a powerful dress.
I mean, if you want to dazzle, this will be your dress.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's interesting, I think, is that it was very fashionable in the 90s, and most of Diana's styles were sort of fashionable at the time, but they are timeless. You could wear many of these dresses today and on the red carpet and still be within, in the best dress.
It's true. You could wear this to the Oscars this weekend.
Absolutely. And then this shift dress that is next to it. This is the dress that she wore to the gala preview of that auction in Christie's in 1997. The design is very simple. I mean, the surface embellishment is beautiful, but the cut is very simple. Yeah. I think to draw attention to the dresses that were being sold and perhaps mark the difference between them.
And I read somewhere that, when people came to see this exhibition, I think the journalists were writing about what strikes you is how small she was. She was quite tall.
She was tall.
Yeah, but her figure was quite small. I think that's what people were talking about.
Well, the designers recall that she was an absolute dream to design for because she was beautiful and had this model stature. But not only that, whenever she wore something, of course, it just put their designs on an international stage, and their designs went stellar. A number of the pieces here were copied on the high street and sold out. And so her contribution to the British fashion industry probably can't be overstated.
Is there anything else in this room that you would like to, any dresses that you would like to talk to us about? I know we've highlighted 3 of them. Anything else that jumps out at you?
Well, the black bugle bead dress is beautiful with the halter neck. She wore that. Yeah, sure.
This one here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and this is the picture for it.
Yes, exactly. So the princess wore this dress to a UNESCO event at Versailles in 1994, and this was from Catherine Walker's own collection. So most of the dresses here were made bespoke for the princess, but this was just picked off a rail, and I think that shows that how her confidence in her own sense of style had really grown, so that she knew what she wanted, she went straight for it. And when she wore this in Paris, the legendary couturier Pierre Cardin said, "We're at the home of the Sun King of France, and here we now have the Sun Princess of Versailles." And so to sort of get those plaudits in France, the home of haute couture, is quite something.
Yeah, and I also read that she knew exactly what she wanted. She used to work quite closely with the designers. So again, pointing to her being comfortable in her own skin and knowing her fashion style and her fashion sense.
Absolutely. I think she knew what she liked right from the start. So when she got engaged to the Prince of Wales, she started recruiting designers around her who would help her create a working wardrobe. And many of them became quite loyal friends because they were quite disarmed by her informality. But many of them said, although they tried to steer her in particular directions, she wouldn't wear something if she didn't like it. So right from the start, she had a strong sense of what she liked.
Yeah, and who she was. Do you have a favourite?
It changes every day.
I'm sure. There are so many to pick from.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I know you don't have that much time, but thank you so much for giving us a little walk and talk of the exhibition here. Larry Lynn, thank you very much.
Thank you.